How am I going to screw it on my computer with you guys watching?
Oh, that's right.
You can still clip your inbox.
How did you know what I was doing? That's what I was doing. How did you know? My kids have so much fun with me because I'm so cheap. At least I have a computer fine.
Did we decide that we're going to talk to Amy during the
Kill those guys.
No, you're going to do mayor's
We should be hard.
Okay, all right. I remember we talked about it both ways. Time for a council meeting for January 22nd. If we could please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a reverend from Peter Moore from
City of Hope.
City of Hope.
Let our bottles head. Father, right now we thank you for waking us up today and starting us on our way. Father, we come asking you to keep your angels around the city council, the mayor, the fire, police, all department heads tonight, that you keep them tonight. Lord, special prayer for Councilman Tobin tonight, that you keep, that you deliver her, get her miracles on tonight. Lord, we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
If we could have a roll call.
Certainly. Councilpersons Bear,
Here.
Dupre. Here. Ross. Here. Salcido.
Here.
Soar.
Here.
Councilwoman Tobin is excused, and Mayor Higgins.
Here.
Thank you.
Had some exciting things going on in the city this week, and in the Wayne County. I got to sit down in a Wayne County meeting this week. Wayne County has announced they're going to be putting vending machines out throughout Wayne County with Narcan in it. That'll be available to the public, and it'll be free. And we are having, a very hard time with some drug-related incidents, and this will be a big help to our police and to our citizens. They will be able to get a hold of Narcan for free in the vending machines. Further notice when we know where the vending machines are going to actually be. We'll let you know. I also had the high honor of the Marines had a convention recently in Dearborn, and they asked me to speak. I just want to say how honored I was to be there, and now the local Marines were hosted it, and it was just an extremely fun event. I'd let the citizens know that the City Charter Commission has had its first meeting and will have another meeting tomorrow night, but they are underway. And lastly, the Lincoln Park Moose has asked me to let everybody know on February 3rd, they are having a fundraiser, spaghetti dinner for a young family who are trying to adopt a special ed child. So, $10 for their spaghetti dinner. With that, we will move on to the meeting.
Discussion.
Oh, we're going to be discussing the city manager's candidates and how we're going about things. And I'll introduce Amy, come up and
Thank you. Good to see everyone. Yep, so I am here to help facilitate the continuation of the deliberations of next steps with the candidates. There's a few different options forward. You can move forward to interview additional candidates. You can move forward to enter into negotiations with a candidate that you interviewed, or we can restart the search. So happy to answer any questions and help chart forward the next steps.
at this point, I'm going to suggest that we restart and look for some new candidates. I think I've just talked with everybody and across the board that we would like to go out and look for more candidates. And then I believe I've already talked to you about one in-house candidate that would like to be part of the interview, and we would welcome that interview.
Great. Is there consideration of increasing the salary range?
Okay.
If I may, to the chair.
Yes.
Personally, I thought that we set a salary, and I don't feel that you adhered to that salary. I thought we spoke at a lot lower than what they were coming in at.
My understanding was that it was approved up to 140,000.
Up to. But we suggested that it start at a lower, we have to be able to go somewhere, we can't go higher than 140. So if everybody comes in at 140, we have nowhere to go for negotiation if we want to keep them.
Well, we do need to post a salary range, and that is public knowledge, and often people will go after the high end of the salary range. However, the market for city managers is above that, so I'm not surprised that a lot of candidates had compensation expectations at the upper end of the range.
I think that early on, we did discuss an earlier, a lower pay, and she suggested higher, and that's when, at that point, we decided to go with the 140. And I think we did do that at an earlier meeting. Right. But I think the councilman has a good point, that that's probably going to be our ceiling rather than our negotiation point, so.
Okay. Is there flexibility on the criteria that we are looking for this time? Before, we were very focused on prior city managers. Is there more flexibility to consider department leaders that don't have prior city manager experience?
I really think we need somebody who has
City
city manager experience.
Okay. Then I will put forward that having there might not be as high of a chance for success if we're not changing the salary range or the criteria.
Well, at this point, I think this is where we have to stay. I don't see us going much, we maybe go a little bit higher, but I don't really see any higher than that. That's already a big jump from the last person.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm setting expectations the best that I can. And when we did the search before, prior city manager candidates, especially those that had very strong career histories and experiences, were in the $150,000 to $160,000 range. Doing the search we did a lot of very aggressive outreach, and another complicating factor is that there were other, competitive offers made to many of the candidates that were in the pool. And some of those expectations and offers that were accepted were above the $140,000 salary range. So I'm happy to proceed as directed, but I do want to caution everyone that the candidate pool might not be as strong as you hope.
I think that we could look forward, maybe some assistant city manager experience.
Okay?
Somebody who has, held the reins, but maybe they weren't the top dog, but, in a larger city, they would get the experience. And our city is unique because we are a medium-sized city, but with our population, we are a big city. So it's complicated, and we need somebody with experience, but we also, because we're not a big city, we don't have the large amount of money that big cities have. Mm-hmm. So I think assistant city manager experience is something we could look at.
How about department director level experience?
I really would like to at least an assistant, I can feel the room and everybody's.
Yeah.
can I aim for city manager and assistant city manager, but if I bring in some department directors that I feel would be good fits, would they be considered or not? I don't want to waste anybody's time, but I also want to give you the best chance of having a pool that you can consider.
I think we could consider somebody who has a large amount of experience in a department head. I wouldn't want to bring in somebody who's been in a department head for a week and then,
2 weeks, okay. Okay, yes, noted, thank you.
3 minimum.
And to the chair,
yes.
when it comes to how the question process played out, could we have an opportunity to give feedback on like essentially kind of the first draft of the question? Because we knew we had to ask the same questions to every candidate to be fair, but we did feel like we were pigeonholed a little bit when we kind of saw like this question wasn't quite what some of us were looking for, but we didn't want to change it midstream to be fair for all the candidates.
Yes, we can definitely work on modifying candidate questions.
Yeah.
When I present the candidates, I will provide draft questions again, and we can discuss those questions at that time. Speaking, if that's all right, if that sounds good.
That sounds good.
Another process improvement I would like to make sure we do is that there's adequate time for everyone to review the information about the candidates. So I'd love to make sure that we address any technology issues ahead of time so that that doesn't impede anyone. So I will plan to work closely with Jennifer and Lisa to make sure that everyone can have time to review the candidates ahead of time, so that.
We would like a hard copy along with anything on the computer.
Okay, well, there's videos, which,
No, I mean, there's certain, we understand the videos, you can't do that on hard copy, obvious. But we would like to be able to, if we sit down at the pre-interview meeting, we want to be able to look down and be able to hand it to each other and see exactly what we're talking about and who we're talking about.
okay, because of the extensive amount of material that's provided in advance, I'd love to make sure people have time in advance of the meeting to review that information. So if we want to provide that documentation early, I don't want people to feel like they have to read it at the meeting, because there is probably 40 or 50 pages of material.
To the chair.
Yes.
That what I prefer too would be if there's a follow-up question in addition to an answer, I would like to be able to have a follow-up question, enough time. And I felt we were rushed kind of through the whole process, but I will say that the second time around, I was able to do more research than I ever saw anything on the first trip around. So, if I could make that happen the first time around, I'm good with that.
Another idea that I have is something that I used in a different community that might help everyone get more time with the candidates, is that we do small group interviews before the full council interviews. My understanding, and I'll put this to your attorney, is that we can select the finalists, and that there can be small groups that don't have quorum and be done via Zoom. There can't be any deliberations after those meetings. No one can be eliminated after those meetings. But it would give people additional time with the candidates in addition to the full council interviews.
I think we would rather have a full council at their interviews, but when you set up your meetings with the employees that you did last time, I learned a lot going to those early meetings, and I think we could set up where a council meeting can come in earlier and let them know that they are invited to sit through them and then come back and sit through our meetings. And I think that would do the same thing what you were just suggesting, and it would work better.
I do have a concern with council members attending the staff meetings. That would not be my preference. I don't think it's as fair for the staff members to be, and we want to make sure there's a consistent experience for the candidates. I've also had a community that did one-on-one meetings with the candidates to provide some additional time. We also could have a candidate reception that would allow more time for everybody to have interactions with the candidates. I can collect the information from the staff and any other members of the community or staff that are there, compile that information and provide it back to council to have that information prior to deliberations.
That's something we have done in the past, and I like that idea.
The reception?
Yeah.
Great. So we'll add that. Would you like to have one-on-one meetings with candidates?
No, I don't
Okay.
think that's, would be appropriate.
Okay. All right, so we'll have a staff panel, a council panel, and a reception next time. Okay, and we will have questions and feedback on those questions in advance. We'll make sure that there's hard copies available well in advance so that everyone can review the information. And there will be hard copies available at deliberations to refer to. So, any other process improvements or changes that I should make note of?
Anything else from the council? I think we got it.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, and you're going to be stuck with me for,
Time frame? How long do I advertise?
How long are we going to advertise this time?
I would suggest the same process of 4 weeks of advertisement, 5 weeks of assessment, and then I can work with Jennifer and Lisa on the timing, but I would suggest the same time.
All right, we will, you know,
Do you want a shorter period of time, or?
no, you know, if that's what we take to get the best one, that's what we want. You know, if that's what you think that the best we can do, then that's what we'll do.
That's what I typically like to do, especially since, I don't think I'd want to shorten it or necessarily extend it, because once, the issue with shortening is that we just went through a process. I want to make sure that we have time to reach out to hopefully new candidates that maybe are thinking of a change in the new year. If we extend the process and timeline, we also have a greater risk of losing candidates that are in competing processes. So that's kind of the balancing act that I try to manage.
Any other questions from the council? Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for your time.
And with that, we'll be moving on to the consent agenda. Resolved that the following listed under the consent agenda be approved as presented to the mayor and council. Approved of the regular meetings of January 8th. Approved of the minutes of the study session for the Brownfield on January 8th. Accept the minutes of the special meeting on January 10th for the city manager interviews. Approve the accounts and claims payable. Approve the sub-recipient for Blessed Hope Pantry. And approve the reappointing of the Housing Commission Gilbert.
So move.
Support.
Councilpersons Dupre?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Bear?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
Soar?
Yes.
And Mayor Higgins?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next one up will be, I'm going to ask the city attorney to give a brief explanation before we do the resolution.
Yes, Your Honor, and for the benefit of council, I didn't think it was important to bring Mr. Plato back. We met several months ago in closed session to discuss the multi-community class action suit or a flooding incident that occurred a few years ago that has finally come to after much facilitation, arbitration, mediation, and negotiations, a recommended settlement. You prescribed the parameters that Mr. Plato would have to agree. He came within them, and council confirmed it at the previous meeting after the closed session. You gave him the authority to go forward. We come back with it and ask you to approve it tonight. And I don't believe there's anything further that needs to be discussed within a closed session. If you have any questions about the lawsuit or why we agreed to settle this, you may ask it now. As you know, it was almost indefensible after all the expenses due to the change in the court rulings that the city would be able to successfully prevail on the notice and on the defects that were found within the system itself. And the greater argument here is one that council can propound, and the mayor and council can propound and put forward both to the state and the federal government, that there's an aging infrastructure system that we are balancing off the backs of the taxpayers here on the water fund and on the water bills, and it's patently unfair. Your neighboring communities are also being affected by this. You're saving on the other end and whittling down expensive attorney's fees and costs of professionals to defend the suit. I think Mr. Kazoo, who's here on behalf of the DPS, would concur that this settlement's in the best interest of the city. You've been provided with a copy of the proposed settlement. You've had the opportunity to review it, and I have no objection to that being disseminated publicly. It's a public record. It's a settlement. You're voting on public funds. You can give it everywhere. You can use it to stuff up the pipes next time it rains. I mean, you can do what you want with it. But I would ask that you approve it tonight.
With that, I'll resolve that the mayor and council approved and accept the settlement in case of
Ready?
Cinerata and et cetera, Al versus the City of Lincoln Park.
I'll move.
Support.
Hearing nothing, I call for a vote.
Councilpersons Bear,
Yes.
Dupre.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Salcido. Soar.
Yes.
And Mayor Higgins.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And next is up from the Department of Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, citizens. John Kazoo, DPS Director. For the record, I want everybody to know that the schools have already closed their schools, and the DPS is not at fault. Sorry, dry sense of humor. First item I have before you is recommendation to reject the bids for the removal and replacement of the district court ADA doors. This is our second time that this project has gone out for bids. The first time we toned down some of the requirements with the hopes that maybe we'd get better prices. We didn't. We simply didn't get better prices, and it's almost double what I had budgeted for that type of work. So my recommendation would be to reject all bids for those doors, because we're actually pretty close to a new budget, meaning July 1. And what I would like to do is put additional capital into that CIP for this upcoming year. That way we've got enough money to fund replacing those doors at the court. So what I've done is I prepared a resolution. Be it resolved that the mayor and council approve to reject all bids received for the district courts for the district court ADA door removal and replacement project proposal back out to bid in the 24-25 budget year and increase the proposed budget and propose appropriations for this project.
I'll move on this.
I'll support. Questions, Your Honor?
Yes.
John?
Yes, ma'am.
What makes this project different than ours downstairs that we did here at City Hall?
The only thing that I see, and I would hope that the finance director could maybe help me out with that one, or maybe John Myers, but the doors out front of our building, we use, I want to say, ARP money. I don't have any ARP money to add to this. My ARP money has already been pledged for others, but if this body would like to use, if there are any remaining ARP money, then we could use that. I would need approximately an additional $26,000. And right now, in talking to the finance director, I don't think she saw where we had extra ARP money available.
No, in all honesty, I meant more like the design of it. It's the same thing, right? What we want to do at the court is what we have downstairs at,
Well, in principle, the answer is yes, but there's additional doors at the court. There are also doors in the back of the building. Here, we only had court doors in the front of the building.
okay, so we're doing more than one set.
Oh, yes, there's doors in the back also.
Okay. Okay, so that explains the additional costs.
It is a different door though, correct? I mean,
It
it's a
is-
different style door because of the nature of where it's at.
The intricacy of the doors are separate, different types of doors, yes. The principle is, they're both new, just like the doors out front here. The sizes are different. They're not exactly the same doors, no. But in principle, yes, they're new doors. We're using ARP money for the front of City Hall. I don't have ARP money set aside for the court doors.
Thank you.
To the chair.
Yes.
Is there a time limit though, like when we can have this completed by? So that another year doesn't go by and this gets done?
Well, provided that it makes it through, let's call it the 24-25 budget process, that will be going before the mayor and council, I believe, in April. If there's appropriate money, we've already got the design, we could have it so that the bids are due even 2 weeks before the new budget. But we cannot, we have to make sure that after the new budget, which is July 1, the work takes place after July 1. That way we could utilize next year's budget money.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll call for the vote at this point.
Mayor Higgins,
Yes.
Councilperson Zor,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Dupre. Yes. Ross.
Yes.
Salcido.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we can have our fire chief up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're going to award bids for the fire hose that went out. Lincoln Park Fire Department solicited bids for fire hose. The fire department received 11 bids. One was from Allied Fire Service, $27,315. Two were from McQueen. One was for $35,092.55. The other one was $28,602.25. One from Dana Supply Company, Safety Supply, for $25,780. And we got four from R&R out of fire apparatus. The first one is from Snap-Tite, is $40,550. The second one is from North American Fire Hose, which is $40,500. The third one would have been North American Alternate at $43,792, and the other one would be Key Fire Hose from R&R, and that one was for $25,195. We had two from MES, and one was for $29,302.35. The other one was for $24,290.35. We had one from HD Edwards and Company, which is also North American, for $31,110. Lincoln Park Fire Department is requesting the mayor and council to award the bid to Allied Fire Sales of Spring Lake, Michigan. Of the 11 bids, Allied Fire sells the lowest best bid to fit our department needs. We are in need of replacing most of its fire hose on frontline apparatus. During our last hose testing in October of 23, 20% of the hose that we had tested failed and was taken out of service. Of the remaining 80%, the remaining hose is past its recommended use due to years of service. The fire hose to replace is 40 50-foot sections of 1 3/4 attack line, 25 50-foot sections of 2.5 supply attack line, and 20 50-foot sections of large diameter hose supply line. The budget impact, the cost of the purchase of the fire hose is $27,000 through $15,000. $21,500 of the funds will come from CDBG account 249-049-75504. The remaining balance of $5,800 $1,815 will come from operations. Budget 101,340,757. It is recommended that the mayor and council adopt a resolution to award the bid to Allied Fire Sales of Spring Lake, Michigan to purchase fire hose. Any questions?
How many years is that?
We have to do the resolution
You have to
first.
read
and
the
then we can
resolution
answer it.
first.
I'll move, Your Honor.
We got to read the resolution
Okay,
first.
go
Okay. Resolve that the mayor and council award the bid purchases for the fire hose to Allied Fire Sales, Spring Lake, Michigan. They are the lowest, best qualified bidder that meets all the fire department specialist needs. Be it further resolved, the $21,500 of the funds shall be from CDBG, account 249-049-75504, and the remaining balance, $5,815, shall come from the operational account 101-340-757. And I'll make a motion for that.
I'll support it with discussion, Your Honor.
Okay. And, Kurt,
Mr. Zor, you can go ahead.
Percentage-wise, how much of the hose will be replaced then?
35%.
So we still have an additional,
So I have amendment from our AFG grant from the nozzle that I'm waiting to hear on to purchase approximately $15,000 more than a fire hose. And then in next year's budget, I asked for $10,000 for additional fire hose. And I asked through CDBG for next year over $40,000. And then we're also doing an AFG grant this year between the 7 cities for fire hose. So hopefully with all that, we'll be able to replace the majority of the fire
and
hose.
then how many years will that be good for?
10 to 15 years.
Through the chair, Your Honor.
yes.
Of course, Chief, I respect your decision on this. Obviously, there was 3 bids that were lower. What was the deciding factor that you chose Allied over the 3 other lower
There-
bids? How did they satisfy you? What was the deciding factor?
So Allied has the McCracken XO, and that's a low pressure nozzle, or low pressure hose. The hoses that came in below that are not a low pressure hose. With the new nozzle on appliances grant that we were awarded, we're going to low pressure nozzles, so you need special hose for that. They kind of go together.
Thank you for that clarification. Thank you.
Any other questions? With that, we will call for the vote.
Mayor Higgins?
Yes.
Councilperson Salcido?
Yes.
Dupre?
Yes.
Beer?
Yes.
Zor?
Yes.
And Ross.
Yes.
With that, we'll ask Public Works to come back up. And while we're waiting for John, I meant to say this in the mayor's remarks earlier, and I forgot, but I wanted to say how thankful we are that the DPS was there during the very bad cold weather and the ice and the storm that we just hit. And our guys were out there in the worst possible weather, out there taking care of the streets and taking care of the water mains that busted. And I've done that kind of work, and it's not fun. And then you add it with that kind of weather, it is just dangerous. And we just want to say thank you to our guys.
I will pass that on to the staff. Thank you.
Appreciate them.
Mayor and Council, I'm up here again, as you can see. I've got another item that I'm bringing before you. Right now, the City of Lincoln Park has a contract with Riverview Land Preserve. And our contract with Riverview will be ending January 31st of this year. So approximately we could have 2 weeks from now. That is separate from the Green for Life contract. Green for Life is the company that picks it up and transports it to Riverview. Jeff Klugman from Riverview Land Preserve is also here in the audience. But one of the items that I've put together is because Riverview right now tried to do or be granted a authorization to create another cell or expand their landfill. They did not get that authorization. So right now, they figure that they've got about maybe 5 to 6 years, 6 years before they will have to have it physically closed. They're offering us a 3-year contract extension because they figured that the last 2 years, maybe even 3 years, it's going to take them to physically close it down unless they get that application granted to expand their landfill. So right now, they're only offering 3 years. Right now, for those of you that are not aware of it, I've been aware of it for a while through another community, but some of the communities in the Downriver area that utilize Riverview are Brownstown, Taylor, Woodhaven, Trenton, Flat Rock, Roselle, Ecorse, River Rouge, Wyandotte, Rockwood, Lincoln Park, Melvindale, and Gibraltar. And what I brought before you is your concurrence to extend utilizing and assisting a downriver community for the next 3 years to take our refuge. The other part to that is if this is not granted and we have to go elsewhere to look for a different landfill, then we would have to entertain going back to with GFL at additional cost for trucking maybe a further distance. And as you get further distances away from your client, they may have to put additional trucks on, plus fuel costs and a different landfill tipping fees. That's why I brought it back to this mayor and council to grant extending the contract with the Riverview Land Preserve. And what I would ask, if you have any additional questions, Jeff Klugman from Riverview is here, and he can answer any of the questions that you may have.
To the chair?
Yes.
You got to read the resolution
Yeah, we have to go do the resolution first. Then we
I
can do questions.
did put together a resolution. Be it resolved that mayor and city council approve the contract renewal between the city of Lincoln Park and the city of Riverview Land Preserve for an additional 3 years until January 31st of 2027 at the new contract rates. Be it further resolved that the mayor and clerks sign and execute the contract renewal document.
So move.
I'll
Support.
support.
Okay. Now we'll go for questions, and do you have a question
the
for
chair.
John, or do you want,
I think this may be for the land preserve officer.
Mr. Clement?
I just wanted to know if.
could you
our-
come up to the microphone? Thank you. People at home will want to know that's,
Once the landfill eventually becomes retired at some point in time, is this the type of contract where the landfill claims are in perpetuity responsibility for our part of the waste in the landfill?
Yeah, so if I understand you correctly, depending on the amount of tonnage or cubic yards that the landfill takes in, will dictate down the road how much space, available space we have remaining. And one thing I really want to mention real quick is this decision actually came down November of 2022, okay? So it's already been a year since the final decision, which was made by the Wayne County FIC Committee, which is the Facility Inclusion Committee. It was a 7-0 unanimous vote against the expansion of the landfill. So we are in the process now of dissecting how much space do we have annually, how much space in terms of years is that going to be, but we actually report all of our tonnage or yardage, cubic yardage, to the state of Michigan. So we want to make sure that we're aligned with that. We have a engineering company, it's Tetra Tech, that handles all of our technical and engineering access and numbers for the remaining airspace capacity. So basically, hopefully I answered your question, but in the contract that you have before you, there may be an opportunity that if the city of Riverview decides to go for another expansion application, which I'm not part of, that will, and let's say if it ever came down that it was approved to expand, then the opportunity for us as a landfill would to be, to come back to the cities and say, here's an opportunity, we've got another 35 years, but right now, that's just kind of a fantasy at this point.
Well, my question was, I know, I mean, once a landfill is not used and is retired, it still has to be monitored in perpetuity to meet all of the various water permits. And if there was to be any permit findings, I know sometimes they will try to recoup the cost from the generators that contributed to it, but in these third-party situations, does the company that we're going through, do they claim responsibility, or would we be responsible if the maintenance and the landfill isn't upkept or allows something to break through the barrier or whatnot?
Yeah, it's, so as a generator of, certain contaminants, such as PFAS, that's the big one.
Yeah.
We all generate PFAS.
Oh, yeah.
My jacket's made of PFAS. Those are man-made chemicals, perpetual chemicals, that it's the, I forgot the tag name on it, I'm not a scientist or anything, but I can tell you that from perpetuity standpoint, from legality standpoint, I'd have to have the contract in front of me or have our attorney, our legal, present that to you. Because I'm speaking out of turn with that. But if you're asking if the city of Lincoln Park would be responsible for PFAS contamination or anything like that at the landfill, I would say no at this point, although we all contribute.
Right.
Each city contributes. We all generate as consumers. We all contribute to the PFAS activity.
I know Michigan's considered a nationwide hotspot for that.
Yeah, and we have actually a couple in our backyard that are the main producers of that. So I won't mention any names, but,
Okay, thank you.
yep, thank you. Any other questions at all?
Through the chair, Your Honor, this may be a two-part question and a comment, but today's January 22nd, January 31st is like 9 days away. I'm just wondering why this was so late. What happens if we would decide to say no, we'd be in trouble, right? So would it behoove us to go to the extra 2 years and lock in that rate, since you said it's going to be available for 5 more years? Why are we just going 3 is my question then.
Well, that's a good question, but I did not, I just want to be, I want to clarify, I did not say 5 years, okay?
That's additional 2.
Yeah, well, the current contract that's executed right now, I believe is a 7-year contract. So that was 7 years ago with a lot more space back then. The options were 5-year, 7-year contracts at the time. That's no longer, so we are offering 3-year contracts at this point. And it's really, that's the driving force, is not having that expansion. That's really the pressure point that not only the city of Riverview's under, but that's the pressure point that we're all going to be under. And I'm talking all Suite 16 downriver communities, not just Riverview. Because all of a sudden, Riverview shuts down, it's either taking the trash 12 miles to Carlton Farms, or one way, or taking it to Canton, right off of 275 there, that's Waste Management, or GFL, which is further in Northville. Yeah.
But the purpose of my question was, basically, let's not come back 3 years from now, 9 days, and the contract's going to be over. So it probably behoove us to be
Understood.
more proactive, like 8 months prior to the deadline. That's all I'm trying to say.
I understand, and that's taken under consideration, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions for either gentleman? Then I will call for the vote.
Mayor Higgins?
Yes.
Councilpersons Ross?
Yes.
Bear?
Yes.
Dupre?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Soar.
Yes.
And John, I believe you are up again.
Madam Clerk, I have one additional item that I'm up here for. The background, or the resolution for commitment to support an MDOT BIP grant bridge bundle program. Michigan Department of Transportation, MDOT, is applying for a U.S. Department of Transportation Bridge Investment Program, BIP, grant to replace local agency bridges in Michigan. To maintain the validity of the BIP grant application for the U.S. DOT, Department of Transportation. City of Lincoln Park must commit to the bridge project to complete, to secure the grant if awarded to MDOT. I don't see where there's any financial impact at today's time. If you recall, maybe 2 months ago, you were asked to maybe participate by providing your email address in support of this. They've kind of changed that a little bit, and they've asked the city to provide a grant, or excuse me, their own resolution to support this, and it will be going before the U.S. Department of Transportation approximately 3 months from now, and we anticipate, or I should say a month from now, and we anticipate an answer 1 to 2 months away, but the award, if received, would not allow the bridge to be replaced. That bridge is on Harrison. I'm going to say there's 2 bridges on Harrison, and it's one closer to Fort Street. As you recall, we've already received a grant for Emmons Street Bridge, which is also scheduled for 2026. This one would also be scheduled for 2026. But I've also put in a resolution resolve that the mayor and council approve the MDOT resolution of commitment and support the local bridge investment program grant by reference. Be further resolved that the mayor and clerk are authorized to sign the agreement, and that DPS Director John Kazoo be appointed as the designated representative to facilitate coordination of the bridge program.
I'll make a motion.
I'll support.
Hearing no discussion, we'll call for a vote.
Mayor Higgins?
Yes.
Councilpersons Ross?
Yes.
Bear?
Yes.
Dupre?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Soar.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Had the right cost on that one.
Yeah.
With that, we'll move on to our city manager's report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The only item I really wanted to touch base with you on tonight was regarding the laptops that were discussed at the last meeting. So I have been working on some different options for you. I know there was some discussion about possibly wanting some touch screen. If we go towards the touch screen, the price goes up pretty significantly. So I've been working with our IT vendor, and I've also taken a look at a couple laptops that staff have on hand, just to try and get an idea. I want to make sure I get something decent for you, but I don't want to overwhelm you with too much technology either. So I think we've got it narrowed down to a couple of options. So what I'll do is I'll send that out to council and let you kind of look it over. There will be some additional cost if we want to have the ability to edit them. We would have to purchase additional software, which would be about $2,000 per year for the 7 of them. So I'll send all of that information out, and then council can decide which direction you want to go on. Question?
Yeah, if you don't mind, you said $2,000 per laptop?
No. So the laptops are ranging anywhere from about $400 to $600, depending on which option and size. Because some of them are pretty small. To get the software to edit the documents, I know Councilwoman Tobin had requested that. That does add the additional software package onto it. We wouldn't have to do it for everybody if everybody didn't want it, but it is an option. For 7 of them, it would be $2,000 per year. It's an additional subscription that you would have to purchase for that. Touch we were to go with a tablet that has the ability to touch screen all of the time, you're looking at about $1,200 for a decent one. Could possibly go maybe a little bit lower, but based on their recommendations of getting something that's going to be, pretty, since you're going to be taking it back and forth too, we don't want to get anything too bulky either. So I'll send out the options
Okay.
to council.
Through the chair, though, if I could, I should have asked you this the last meeting. How much do we have budgeted for this?
It was not a budgeted item.
If it's not a budgeted item?
No.
Okay.
No. Now, depending on the cost, there are some funds There's a little bit of funding available in the IT fund. If we got into more of the $1,200 range per tablet, that would be a little harder to do. And if that was the case, that was the recommendation of council, they want to, my recommendation would then be to put it into the next year's budget, unless, instructed otherwise.
Any other questions from mayor and council?
I have one more question, if I could. As we're flipping through the papers, it dawned on me, what happens when we have to pull a resolution and move it, like say from the consent agenda and move it to action items? Will we have that ability? Probably not, right?
I will have a paper packet with me so that I can do that,
Okay,
so that
all right.
it's not a problem.
You'll keep order.
I will keep it in order.
I'm sure it'll be a little...
Adjustment.
Yeah, adjustment at first, but...
For sure.
And I did, one other thing, I did send out an email to some of the surrounding communities to see what they were doing for their council members. There were a couple that provided them, quite a few that didn't. One community said they had provided them, but the council members didn't use them, so they took them back, but, so.
Through the chair, Your Honor.
Yes.
This question for Lisa, however, if you want to refer to the building department, so they're going to do their report next. 2 weeks ago, we had a resolution for the brownfield situation at the Sears. Prior to that meeting, 2 weeks ago, we got, 100 pages of documentation that took all weekend to read and still reading. A lot of it's, brownfield reimbursement agreement, the declaration of easement, the restrictions, the condominium deal. All we got out of that meeting was that the underground utilities will need to be replaced. None of the water sewer lines are liable. They will need to get county approval. Regulations regarding the building will be over. There's other issues. So where are we at with the Sears project? Would we say that for Mr. Myers in the building department, or do you want to answer that?
Yeah, I've heard no information on it, so unless John
Perhaps
has
his
anything
report
more?
can shed light
No.
on it then.
No.
I'll refer my question to him later. Thank you.
Any other questions for the city manager?
If I may, the computer, just so that it's understood, there's a savings involved by getting the laptops. By all the reams of paper we're not using and going into landfills eventually, we'll have the information on our laptops. So, there's a cost savings there, correct?
There is a small cost savings with the paper reduction, for sure, and less paper,
$20 to
to go around.
$40, yeah, approximately a month, correct? Approximately?
I'd say so. I use
They could be
probably
paid.
a ream and a half to 2 reams of paper for each meeting, printing out your paper packages at $7 or $8 a ream, so.
I just want the public to understand that there's a reason for it. It's not just to do it.
Well, I think that it will save money in the long run, but it will also make us more efficient. So,
Thank you.
all right, anything else for the city manager? Okay, then we will move on to the department head. Our building department, as we spoke of earlier.
Thank you, City Mayor and Council. My name is John Myers, and I am the City of Lincoln Park building official. Out of respect and request of the city staff, I left my 36 PowerPoint presentation in my office, so we'll be a little shorter tonight, sorry. I know you wanted to hear and see all the pictures be sketched out, but we'll redo that tonight. Regarding your question about the Sears, the 3 things that still need to be answered are not been answered yet. Wayne County has not responded, and the developer for Sears, who is responsible to provide the Wayne County decisions on the lines, has not given us a response yet. So at this point, it's all been tabled until we hear from them.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
Tonight, I just want to give you a couple of updates that are valuable to you. Over the first 6 months of the season, our numbers are pretty much consistent and predictable for what we've done over the last 5 to 6 years. There is one highlighting difference that I want to bring to your attention, and it is in our certificate of compliance. Our rental program changed over. To give you some history of what we've done based on the July 2022 request of council to begin the process of cleaning up both business districts and the residential districts. In the previous year, we spent our time redesigning how we went about finding our certificate of occupancies for businesses. And we brought ourselves to an average number of about 94 to 97% of our businesses are registered, and then we have a large vacancy registration. This year, starting in July, we redesigned the way we are approaching our rental program, and typically we average about 550 registrations and certifications in every 6 months. This year, to this point, from July to December, we've covered just over 900. And so in recovering that, it's part of the program of evaluating and bringing a cleaner residential district. So the key in what we've done is try to help in developing the code enforcement division by addressing a more aggressive approach to our rental program. So the big difference in our numbers getting at the halfway point is really in our rental program. Typically we're around 550. Right now we're just over, for the first 6 months, right now we're over 900 registered and certified properties for the city of Lincoln Park this year. So it changes the number of balances. Other than that, all of our other numbers are pretty much consistent and have been as we've done. The next key for going forward for us is our code enforcement that was put in place August 7th. And in that report, we have now, we're a month away from 6 months. We're actually not really. We're only a few weeks away from 6 months in operation. But however, our next stage, our second stage of getting started is to begin to get ready for the spring. And up until this point, all we've done in our code division is what we call sweat equity guidelines. Grass and alley repairs, debris removals, RV evaluations, in other words, illegally parked recreational vehicles, vehicles parked in yards on non-hard surfaces, and then fences that have been dilapidated that have been tied to another fence illegally. And so now that they have to be repaired or replaced, we're requiring them to remove. So we've done this process of moving through the city. We are now about 74% of all of our vacant our alleys are now registered. So the goal will be to finish before the spring gets here, that we have a registry of almost 100% of all the properties that back into an alley, so that we will now know exactly who owns the responsibility for each of those parcels or part of an alley as we move forward. So the next stage will be for us to address the public in public forum. And so you may have not seen it yet, but we are scheduled to come up in February. The 6th will be in the northeast corner of the city, and we'll be at the Roop School by the approval of the school board to host that night. And then in the Lafayette building, we'll be there on February 29th. And our job will be to introduce the Code Enforcement Division, what we're going to be doing, how it's been broken down, and how they can prepare for what is their responsibility according to the city ordinances as well as the International Property Maintenance Division. So we'll give them paperwork, we'll give them a chance to understand how we're coming in the spring for then violations that might require permits to be completed. And so we've waited 6 to 8 months, we'll wait till the spring, and then we'll begin to register violations against properties that may require a resident to pull a permit to do so. So our first 2 public forums are set at this moment. We would like to see 2 more set before I get to the end of this third quarter, this third quarter of this year. We'll evaluate and see what kind of questions and responses that we have. Hopefully, we will also then meet to support our code enforcement in cleaning up our districts with the school board. We're scheduled this week to meet with them once again and see what kind of community service support and partnership we can have with the building department and their public school system. So there's the basic fundamental 2 major issues on the table for the city building department at this moment. If there's any other further questions you'd like to ask me regarding my report, I'd be glad to answer them.
Through the chair,
Yes.
will there details of when and, the times and dates of the public forum be posted like on our website and different places like that to let are you putting it like in in whatever buildings are in that northeast area to let the residents know? and
That's
things
correct.
like
It'll
that?
be available to the public schools for those neighborhoods that come to that building. It'll be available to the city webpage. We have a couple other opportunities to maybe put it in public places. I can't verify that until I hear from the owners of those opportunities, but they'll already be in the city hall. We've already disseminated them to the clerk for her legal right to post them, as well as we've sent them to the city management office so they can post them on the webpage.
Have you included the library in
We
that
have.
list? Okay,
And so they'll be able to do that going forward.
thank you.
Through the chair? Yes. Thank you. Mr. Myers, sounds like you're going to have a lot of beneficial information for all of us in
That's-
those forums.
I would
So-
imagine.
So where can someone who doesn't attend the forums, or maybe not even in that neighborhood, still get, let's say, a list of what projects require permits?
As soon as we're ready for the 6th, we will have a flyer that's called Responsibilities for Maintaining Your Residential Property in the City of Lincoln Park. And on the inside of it, it'll have 14 categories of a picture of a city, of a resident, that you're responsible to take care of and maintain. And then it'll give you directions of where you get your information on the backside of it, and it'll be a public document that they'll be able to publish. The Code Enforcement Division, every time they need to go out, they'll be able to hang that on the door with people, as well as it'll be available in my office, as well as at the City Hall, City Management Office as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else have from the department head? Then we will move on to the oral reports of the citizens. No citizens. Anybody want to come and talk to us? Anybody? Going once, going twice? Okay, now we will go on to the oral reports of the mayor and council.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make it brief. In the last 2 weeks, I visited several shops in Lincoln Park, so I just want to give our city a little plug on places that I've been, and I would hope Lincoln Parkers would attend. First off, today, my tire pressure gauge has been low. I went to Round Tire today. They filled my air for free. Of course, I gave them my money to buy a sub. I won't tell that, but also Subway, Los Charros Mexican Restaurant on Goddard and Dix. Got to go there. Harry's Corned Beef for breakfast last week. Los Arcos, and I go to like 3 different gas stations in the city of Lincoln Park. I work in Woodhaven, Trenton area, and the gas is much cheaper in Lincoln Park than those cities. So buy your gas in Lincoln Park. That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Councilman Tracy.
Yes, I did want to bring to council the event that's scheduled for March 1st at Parks and Rec, the drag bingo at the band show. And I just wanted my view to be out there, and I think we need a discussion. My view is, I have no problem with this event. It's just I don't believe the city should be endorsing it. And I'd like to add that to the next agenda, if I could, for discussion. And other than that, everybody stay warm because it's cold and it's icy, and please be careful going home.
Councilman Ross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, because the weather is what it is and we're expecting another storm, you could stay ahead of the game with not just watching the weather on the news, but you could get a notification right to your phone if you sign up for our emergency notifications through Code Red. And that information is on page 22, I do believe, here in the happenings. And if you don't have a happenings, I do believe it is on our website. The museum does reopen on February the 3rd. And just as Mr. Myers is preparing us for the spring, Little League is preparing for the spring, and they already have signups. That information I also found in the happenings. And signups, the next signup will be February the 3rd from 12 to 4, and February the 17th, also from 12 to 4. And signups are at the Downriver Christian Church in the basement, and their address is 1069 Buckingham. And that is all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll go to Councilman Bear.
I want to say with the upcoming weather, everyone stay warm, stay safe, and have a great beginning of the year. That's all.
Okay. Councilman Zoer.
Police Department will be hosting a blood drive with the Red Cross on January 25th from noon till 6 p.m. at the band shell. There will be a police auction of vehicles at 500 Southfield Road on January 25th at 10 a.m. School has been closed for tomorrow due to the weather. Congratulations to Detective Tom Blaylock and James Frazier for being selected for the 2023 Police Officer and Firefighter of the Year. Thanks so much for our departments. And with that, I will say good evening.
One other remark I want to make real quick, because I have gotten several calls, and I'm sure everybody in the council has too, about trucks coming down River Drive. The county has overruled us and said that that street is okay for trucks, so we are allowing them. But if you see them in your neighborhood, please let us know, and we will send police, and we will do what we can. But the River Drive, the county has ruled that they can use that road. So, why the bridge is closed. And with that, I'll make a motion to, oh, and one more thing. Maureen, get better, we miss you.
Yes.
That's it. Okay.
Go Lions.
So moved. On adjournment, so moved.
I have a mover, do I have a support?
Support.
Support.
Councilperson Salcido?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Bear?
Yes.
Dupre?
Yes.
Zor?
Yes.
And Mayor Higgins? Yes.